What do you make of Citadel actually coming into the space? Like that's obviously a
Oh,
top.
I'm so happy. Yeah. Like one of the things like a lot of people don't know this about like market making.
Welcome back to Talking Intentionally. I'm Cozy with the Axel team, and today we're speaking with Josh from Aori. Aori is one of the biggest names in solving, and they have a really cool story of how they got bootstrapped, and you're going to hear that in this episode, that you're watching right now. As always, let me know if you have any feedback, and thanks again for your time in watching, and we hope you enjoy. Let me know if you have any comments, concerns, questions in the comments below, and yeah, till then, take care. Bye. Sweet. Hey, Josh, thanks for taking time to speak with the Talking Intentionally podcast. Huge fans of what you guys are doing at Aori. Want to
Yeah.
start by just like talking about like who you are and your journey into crypto. Like, how'd you get into, I guess, the world of solving or market making, which itself is a bit of a controversy, and we'll talk about that later. But what's your journey into crypto?
Yeah, yeah. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Um yeah, so my background after I graduated, I went to Ole Miss in Mississippi, and then I started after college in steel metallurgy research. So I was doing like like patenting like new types of steel and whatnot for like agriculture stuff. And then COVID hit and I got everybody in the entire plant I was at got laid off. And I was like, "Oh shit, what do I do?" And a good buddy of mine from the internet that I'd never met in person was like, "Hey, I'm starting this crypto market maker. You want to come join?" And I was like, "First of all, yes, but first of all, what's market making? Like, what's crypto?" Well, I mean, I knew what crypto was. I was like, "What's market making?" Um, and I was like, "Alrighty, let's do this." So I made markets in crypto for 3 years, or just under 3 years, with them from out of Chicago and LA. We did a lot of token market making, crypto options market making, stuff like that. So that was a lot of fun. And then yeah, one of my last strategies I implemented there, we were doing like Sextex ARB on options, and that was my first time playing with a DEX, and I was like, what the hell is this thing? Like, what is this like? Why are some of my transactions like getting included and some not? Why are like some of my transactions, why are some people beating me to like do these arbs? Like, what is going on here? And then I kind of went down the MEV rabbit hole, and uh I think anybody who gets into MEV naturally like sees Intense as like the solution for that. And so I built one more lending protocol in the meantime called DAMM. That was kind of fun. We built a kind of like Wildcat pretty early. Uh and like 2 months before FTX exploded, which was terrifying. And then got into build then we started building Aori, which is now, I think I think we'll be hopefully pretty big in the intense space. So that's kind of my journey in crypto. Oh, and I mined Doge when I was in like middle school. Like that was about it. And then I lost my wallets.
Crazy.
But yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. I mean, like, so I guess how did you like
I'm gonna take this off.
the world of
It's like
solve?
strangling my brain flow. Sorry, continue.
No, no, dude. I love the hat, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
Pretty sick.
I
That's you
just
gotta
got
get
it.
a clip from the the hat part of
Yes,
the that's for you.
yes.
But
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, like, how did you even learn about solving? Like, what about it? Like, why'd you learn get into intense? And like, Aori is huge. Like, how did Aori become so big?
Well, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's been a very long and winding journey. So the way I got into Intense was uh I think anybody in the trading space kind of immediately knew once they look and did any analysis on like dexes that like these things sucked and like they like were structurally broken by having the pricing logic of the market maker be on chain. And so CowSwap was like the first intense protocol that I like really started to like pay attention to and went deep on. And I started talking to a lot of the solvers on CowSwap and a lot of the eventually the market makers that now fill most CowSwap orders. And one of the particularly interesting things was CowSwap. I started doing a lot of analysis on it, and eventually, like when orderflow.art, like if anybody wants to see like an amazing breakdown of order flow on ETH mainnet, check out orderflow.art by Danning and the Flashbots team. Spectacular dashboard. I started looking into like what was going on these intense protocols, and I was like, yep, okay, this is definitely the correct way. Like, I think that like CowSwap is kind of weird and not great in that they use things like combinatorial auctions and like frequent batch auctions. But the idea of move the pricing off chain, but inherit the decentralization and the trustless execution and custody of the on-chain portion of a blockchain. And that to me was like, okay, that's what we have to do. Like that's kind of the only way that trading can go in crypto. I think like you're seeing, I actually think like I have these terms for them like Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3 block or like dexes. Like Gen 1 is like your shitty like UniV2s and things like that. Gen 2 is like your Uniswap V3 plus like Cow Swap. Like these are like the first evolution of like dexes that are reacting to the first generation of dexes. And then Gen 3 I think is like, where we're going, which is off-chain order books with on-chain settlement. So yeah.
Yeah. And then how did you start Aori? Like how did Aori go from like 0 to 1? Bit of
Okay,
a
so if my future children are listening to this, this is a joke. So the night FTX blew up, um, we were running a protocol called DAMM, as I kind of mentioned, which was we were doing under collateralized lending to market makers. Um, and we flew our whole team down to Oxford, Mississippi, not too far from me, to watch an Ole Miss football game. So the whole team was coming to an offsite to watch Ole Miss versus Arkansas, I think it was, or Ole Miss versus LSU. And so we literally, when half of the company was on planes, FTX blew up, and like we had like $50 million in like open loans, and we were like, oh fuck, okay. So we started recalling all the loans, and luckily we managed to wind it down successfully without any like bad debt or anything, thank God. And then we all got insanely high and went out in Oxford, and we're like, "Oh, what the fuck do we do now?" We had an office in downtown Oxford, and it was basically just a garage. And so we all just sat in the garage, like looking out like the open garage door.
yeah.
And we're just like all like just totally, tripping out of our minds. And we're like, what the fuck do we do now? And then I started chat. This is like right when ChatGPT came out, and so I started like ChatGPTing like names of like a new idea, and Aori came up.
Wow.
And I was like, Artie, that sounds so like good. We have to use it. And then we just started to all like me and a lot of the team that started DAMM with me, we all were traders together. And so we were all just like, what do we do next? And we just spent the whole night talking, and like the ideas, like the core idea behind Aori was like solidified that night, which was like, we need to be part of the movement of or part of what fixes dexes
Yeah.
by improving the pricing structure of dexes themselves, like improving the microstructure of like how dexes work, by moving that trading off chain. And so yeah, that's kind of how Aori got started. Kind of a weird one, but yeah.
How did you? I mean, it's a great story, dude. Honestly, an amazing story. And the name is actually excellent. That's like one of the best
Thank you,
parts.
thank you,
Yeah, a 4 letter like clean
thank
name.
you, thank you.
Hard to get. I mean, we're a little biased at Axel for 4 letter names that start with A.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, dude, like, how did you start to gain scale? Like, that's, I guess, one of the big questions. Is it just that like you guys were one of the first people to like really get good at solving or like market making for, like order flow or like what? Can you talk a little bit about like I guess the landscape of solvers right now and why Aori like was able to capture like market share?
Yeah, so it's kind of we definitely did not start Aori thinking we were gonna do any solving of our own.
Yeah.
So our first like product we launched to like very, very limited success was basically the same chain intense order book, where we built a prototype of this idea that we had for basically an off-chain order book with on-chain settlement on like a particular chain. So you could trade any two tokens on the chain, match your price off-chain, and then have the settlement occur after the matching on-chain. Um, and that, like, as it turned out, was really hard to. A lot of people were just like, well, how is this different than like, Uniswap? Or how is this like I can just use Uniswap today? How is this different than like, 1inch or whatever? And it was very hard to pick up market share in that. And while we were like working on like looking for ways to like break into that market, I started a very good friend of mine who runs a pretty big cross-chain intent protocol. Like I won't name which one, but like a cross-chain intent protocol was like, "Hey, we're looking for market makers to come fill order flow on our cross-chain intent system. Like, do you know anybody?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll hit up somebody." So I hit up a bunch of market makers for them, and every single one basically told me like, "Go kick sand." Like,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing this. And I was like, "Oh fuck, okay." So I felt bad. I was like, I told him I would get him somebody. So I was like, fuck it. Like me and one of our engineers, let's write a solver over the weekend. Like it can't be that hard. And so we wrote a solver in like 2 days, like over the and we were like, all right, we're ready to go. And so they started to turn their protocol on and we started solving and they ended up getting two like Mev shops to come on and start solving too. And we just like kicked their asses. Like and like I don't think we were doing anything like particularly good. I just think we were the only people who were like taking it seriously.
Oh,
And like that gave us like a really big advantage. And so we started like winning on that platform. And then we were like, why don't we try on a cross? Let's try solving on a cross. So we wrote in a cross solver. And then we started winning a lot of a cross order flow. And then yeah, we just continued like once people started like once our wallets kind of got doxxed and like some people started finding out about us, like by token 2049, like last year, like 15 freaking intense protocols were like, you know, come solve for us. And I'm like, fuck, okay. So solving kind of as like they talk about in like web 2 like p like with product market fit like it just kind of gets pulled out of you
oh.
um and so we just started committing more and more and more resources and eventually ended up consuming the whole company on the solving side and like I won't leak too much because we'll have more. I don't when's this going to get released like after
Hey,
recording.
today
Oh,
we're
it's today. Okay,
okay.
okay. Keep an eye on our Twitter because we're gonna tweet something out pretty soon, like to give everybody kind of a nice proof of life update. Um, we'll be we'll be we have a really cool new product that's gonna come out that let's say you wanna directly let's say like you see that like man these Aori guys like they can solve or like let's say like Joe Schmo who's running a solver like this guy can solve um what if you want to like directly interact with him and like directly trade with him and not cut out all the middlemen, cut out all the intent systems, cut out all the order flow providers who just take their spreads on top of it. What if I just want to like directly interact with this solver um, for any kind of trade I want to do, any trade. We're gonna be releasing some cool stuff pretty soon around that, so I'm very very excited about that. Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have
I won't go too deep into that yet.
yeah. Save it for
Yeah,
when you go public. But I was
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
few questions kind of on that. Like, how do you pick a venue to solve for? Like, it seems like you kind of just stumbled into becoming a really good solver, which is honestly an insane thing. Like, given how
yeah,
like the world has like shifted for this becoming a huge thing. Like,
yeah.
how do you choose a venue to solve for? And I guess like maybe you kind of touched on it, but it's like, why even work with third-party websites? Like why not just do it all on your own? Yeah.
Well, so there's a couple things there. Yeah, what we quickly realized was like there are no like real solvers. Like, and I don't mean this like I'm being a little bit broad when I say that. There are like real solvers on CowSwap. There's guys like if you go look at like orderflow.art, you'll see like Copium, Resolver, Barter. Like these are I've met almost all these teams. They're really, really excellent teams. That what they're doing though for the most part is they're pulling quotes from other market makers, from like real centralized exchange market makers, like through things like Bebop, or they've basically just written like a DEX router where they're just routing through like on-chain liquidity sources. They're not like holding inventory and quoting the inventory like a market maker does. Um, and so, like on CowSwap, that's kind of how it works. The way we decide or like work with Intense Pro, like frankly, like I want to be live on every single Intense protocol. So like pretty much every Intense protocol that we're talking to, like we want to be live on, and we're basically just we have like a super simple little algorithm, which is not even an algorithm. It's just like, hey, how much of order flow are they getting? Like, what's the average spread? And basically, we're looking at it from like a P&L basis of like how much like what do we think about this protocol? What do we think about how much volume they're going to be able to generate over the next like 6 months, 9 months, year, whatever, and then just rank ordering those and going down the list of integrating into every single one of them. That's like really how we look at it. Um, and then like your question about like why integrate into like public intense platforms, like I think that there's like things like Across show that like users do value decentralization. And we want to be wherever like I think we were talking we've talked a little bit or you've heard like my kind of point on this too about how solvers are just market makers. Like
Yeah.
solvers all become market makers or go out of business, basically. Like I think the DEX routing solving system is going to die pretty soon. Um, and so, I think like market makers, like if you look at like TradFi, for example, like no market maker is running their own exchange. Like really, like
Yeah.
they'll have like brokerage desks where you can trade with them directly. But like they're not running like the NASDAQ or like a big public exchange like that. And so I think like for us, we look at it a lot like that, where we say like, hey, these public intense platforms are going to be the general like high order flow platforms. That way users know that they're getting the best execution possible. So let's go be active on all of them and be the best service provider we can be on
Yeah.
them. So that's kind of how we look at it. Yeah,
Yeah. It's like just go to where the water is instead of trying to, yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So kind of like, what do you think about the phrase AI agents and like, I don't, like the Turing Gauntlet paper, like he uses the word kind of interchangeably, like agent
Hmm.
and solver. What do you think about like that phrase? I mean, like obviously agent, the way he described it is more like a solver, but what do you think about the future of like AI agents doing solving?
I was literally I was talking to a couple of guys on our team about this exact subject. And I think like I'm not trying to jerk you off here. I don't know how like if how crass I can be on this, or if, do you
Go
censor
for whatever
anything?
you want.
Okay, okay. I'm not so I think like a lot of people have the wrong impression of what AI agents can do,
Yeah.
especially for things like portfolio management. So Assault, I think like Tarun is like I understand his point. I think he's oversimplifying it a little bit. So I think an AI agent, like the to me, like the multi-billion-dollar product in the AI agent space is basically you have your own private portfolio manager and your portfolio is treated like an ETF, where you can tell an AI agent like, hey, here's I want my portfolio construction to look like this. I have this certain level of like risk parameter, risk management that I want to have. Decide the allocation, and then it's up to like the thing I don't think that will ever happen is I don't think AI agents will ever be able to have any alpha in execution.
Yeah.
So I think like that's where like market makers and like solvers come in is like the AI agent decides like, hey, your portfolio construction is like a 60/40 ETH Bitcoin position right now, but I think it's better to reallocate it to like 50/50. Uh, I'm going to execute through a set of market makers or solvers to actually get the best execution for that possible.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what like it ends up looking like. Like there's really no reason like that like with things like AI agents that like ETF managers should exist really.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's kind of where I think like because you could basically cut the admin fee out of ETF management basically by doing it kind of like that. So that's kind of where I think it'll probably end up going. Yeah.
Do you think there will be solvers for things outside of crypto? Like that is kind of part of the bet, but like Anoma, Essential, guys like us at Axel, like we kind of have this view that, solving for general intents or generalized tasks, like
Yeah.
whatever, travel planning, whatever it is, but using some form of verification. What are your thoughts on that as like honestly like one of the biggest solvers in the space?
Oh yeah, I could not be more bullish that idea in general. Like I think so I'm a big like I never worked in TradFi. I like now knowing a lot of people who have like I really wish like if I had a time machine, if God was like, Josh, you have 5 years added to your life for free. You can go do anything you want in those 5 years. Like you can go work any job you want. Like you have to work a job, you can work any job. I would be a pit trader at like the NYMEX, the COMEX, or like the CME. Like I
Yeah.
would go back and like be a pit trader like for like that whole time. So like I think that like the what's so cool, okay, intents to me are like the first financial primitive in crypto that I actually believe is something that TradFi doesn't and can't have. Now, like some people who might be really really autistic about this kind of thing might be like, but perps don't exist in TradFi, and like, sure, technically perps don't exist in TradFi, but like perps do exist in TradFi. They're called auto rolling quarterlies or auto rolling futures. They're the exact same thing. They trade like a perp, they work like a perp. They're not like traded like on a public market like a perp, but like you can tell your broker or like your market maker or whomever be like, hey, auto or your execution guy, like auto roll this quarterly for me for the next year. Like, and it's a perp
Yeah.
basically. Um, so I think like intense like general purpose intents like that can be. I'm actually a big. I think crypto will primarily and forever be used for financial primitives, much more so than like a lot of like a lot.
Yeah.
Of, I mean, sounds like you believe that they'll be like more general purpose than just financial applications. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think like the idea of being able to simply tell whether it's an agent or a solver or whomever, like, hey, I've got here's my portfolio. Now I want you to go do do these five actions for me across these five generic DeFi protocols and then have it all execute immediately like that. That to me is just like that's a holy shit moment. That's like a wow, okay. You this is something TradFi can't have.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, so our first product is like a trading thing. It's like
Mm.
autopilot. It allows for you to create like
Yeah.
indexes of tokens on like Ethereum and Solana and just trade that to like index instead of trading
Yeah.
into. So it's like a very good UI. That's pretty much what it largely is. Other stuff like find me the best yield, but set a stop loss. And that's where like this agent participating with solvers type stuff goes in. I think down the line though, like one pitch that I've been doing that's getting some traction is like you probably feel it too. You're going to be in five different cities, at this speaking of five different universities at this time. Like, go and plan that for me. Like, I don't care how you like who you book through or like whatever, as long as it's not like Spirit Air, like fly whatever airline that's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
this. And like, I want to be at this location at this time. I feel like that's an intent. Like any like kind of request. And then a solver, obviously I think
Yeah.
it'd be hard to find who's gonna like, creating the like financial demand for solvers in that regard requires a bit of like bootstrapping, but that's like the vision that we're building for.
Yeah,
uh
yeah, yeah. As payments move into crypto, I think, and like a lot of these things already have public APIs, for example.
yeah,
But you can actually do payments in crypto too for things like air travel or like,
literally.
e-commerce, things like that. Like, absolutely agree. Absolutely.
Have
Yeah.
you seen this like OpenAI's like operator demo? Like it's like plan a party and get strawberries or whatever, but at the
No, no, no. I'll have to I gotta look this up.
it's like
That's it.
this is like something that made us kind of bullish because it's like plan a party and buy strawberries, but at the end it's like $800 of strawberries. Like it was like for OpenAI. It's like at the end it's like okay, now enter your credit card information. It's like that is an
Yeah.
example of like crypto should just be the payment like layer in that specific
Yeah,
situation.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's where it's good. But zooming out and like kind of like to wrap it up a little, where do you see it Aori in like 5 years from now or like whatever time? Like we could do like short-term future, like near-term future, and then long-term future.
So I kind of alluded a little bit to like what we're about to roll out, and like this kind of will demonstrate like what the vision of that is, which is Aori is going I believe Aori will become like our goal is to become the biggest solver by an order of magnitude on every platform. Like I want to become the like I'll use a name that just everybody knows, which is just like the citadel of solving.
Well,
And I think like that also means market making. And so like we want to be, making markets across every asset class we possibly can. Whether that's RWAs or that's crypto or that's, airline travel, AI agent stuff, like whatever that ends up being, like wherever there's order flow, we want to be the best possible provider of pricing for any user for that, especially if it's in digital assets. So that's kind of our kind of vision.
what do
Um,
you make of Citadel actually coming into this space? Like that's obviously a top
oh,
top.
I'm so happy. Yeah. Like one of the things like a lot of people don't know this about like market making. Like, when I was a token market maker, for example, one of the things like a lot of issuers would ask is be like, "Hey, are you cool if we have like more than one market maker?" And I would always go, "Yes, please." And like they're always kind of like confused by that because they're like, yeah, but doesn't that like hurt your P&L? And it's like maybe it slightly tightens spreads, which means we make less per trade. But
Yeah.
you know what it also does? It also substantially de-risks us because it means that like let's say for example, I get really long Ethereum and I need to rebalance my portfolio and get back to neutral. Well, now I know for a fact that there's another professional counterparty in this market that I can rebalance through
Yeah.
directly without having to and like sure they're going to make a little bit off of my rebalancing as well, but like they're doing a massive favor for me by helping me rebalance. And so the liquidity begets liquidity, and so the more market makers there are, the better the markets, the more liquid the markets, the easier it is to be a market maker, which is like very like kind of a lot of people have a hard time like wrapping their head around that, but like it's kind of the the more liquid a market is, the more people can be or become the equivalent of like market makers or solvers in that market. So yeah, a
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, I used to work for a trading firm actually before this, but
Oh, sick. Wait, what'd you do? What'd you do?
I was in like operations, so nothing like
Oh,
fancy.
you didn't trade properly?
No,
Hell
I
yeah.
wish. I mean, like that's too competitive.
That's sick. That's sick. Yeah.
It's
Hey, it's a
carrying
lot of
water.
fun. It's addicting.
There's the water boy. But yeah, man. Hey, dude, Josh, thanks for taking the time. Huge fans of Aori at Axel,
Thank you.
and yeah, hopefully see you guys at some event. Are you guys going to any cool events down the line, or?
Gosh, let me think. I just had a baby, so I'm like taking off from all the events. Thank you, thank you. I'm taking off from all the events. I don't know. I'll have to. We'll post on Twitter if we do, and I'll hit you up about that. But I don't know if we're headed to. We just did Eat Denver. That was kind of our. We host Searcher every year there.
We saw you
Uh,
speak. Yeah.
yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm trying to think. I don't know what the rest. We had a couple guys at DAS just a minute ago. I'll have to look at the calendar. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for your time, Josh. Be
it was a
well.
pleasure. Thanks so much, Jake.